Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world away from the numbers.
Hey, 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 everybody, and welcome to another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall,
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenheimer.
and we have another packed show for you this week. We're going to be talking Whitecaps. They lost. Whitecaps 2. They lost. Vancouver FC. They lost. Canada. They as well as lost, really, finishing second in the group. So it's going to be a joyous show that we've got this week, Zach. Well, we'll try and keep it as upbeat as we can. How's your week been? Non-football related. Did you have a nice Canada day?
Dude, it was the weirdest Canada day. I did like nothing. Didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, we didn't do anything. Well, we took the dog out for a walk in the morning to try and beat the crowds, but
Spent time with my family, watched some football, played some games. Did we go kick a ball this? No, that was the day before. Yeah, literally. Had some nice food. Did some house cleaning, did some, kind of summer, spring kind of cleaning stuff. But no, it was very subdued. It was nice.
yeah.
It was nice not to go out to do a big thing or go with a whole bunch of people. I mean, I did it on Sunday, obviously, but yeah.
I toyed with going up to the not so more Whitecaps games, but again, I had something on in the morning that was going to kind of run into the start, and it was a long way to go, so I didn't go up in the end. But yeah, it was just quiet as well, just a quiet weekend, really. Of course, we're recording this on Tuesday, the 4th of July, so to all our American listeners, happy Independence Day. Great movie. I actually saw that movie in Toronto. I was on vacation when it was released, and I went to see it in Toronto. And it got to a bit of the end when, I can't remember who it was, but someone went, "Don't worry, lads, the Americans are here." And there was just this like, oh,
In the
from
theater?
everyone in the theater.
I don't remember liking it. I think I've only ever seen it once. I don't think I liked that movie that much.
I just like Alien.
It was a huge big
Things and-
blockbuster, I know.
yeah.
But
I mean, it's an okay film, but I like this. A lot of these films, this is a discussion I have with my wife. They go on too long. Action films for me, I've got the same complaint about like some of the Marvel films, some of the other superhero films, like Lord of the Rings, the later Harry Potter films, the Fantastic Beasts films. Everything always feels like 30 to 45 minutes just too long for me.
I like when it's done well. I like longer films. But you're right, there are some that are not so good. The Lord of the Rings, I love the extended cuts.
Yeah, so the extended cuts of that are fantastic. That's, I think, maybe one of my exceptions to the rule, because it really added stuff to the story, I felt. The early Harry Potter films as well, I thought they were good. They were a good length as well. I haven't watched The Batman. I've had it on the PVR for ages, because I know it's 3 hours.
It's worth watching. It's like DC. Obviously, I'm much more. I like Marvel much better in terms of their films and even the comic books. Although I have read very little DC, but I think DC has not done a good job outside of maybe the original Batman and the Nolan films at making a couple others were okay, but like at making a cohesive like universe. And so um this Batman one is again a new thing, a new kind of universe, its own kind
Mm.
of thing, right? But it's worth watching. Yeah, it's interesting. It's different. It is longer. The pace is different, but I think it's actually fairly well done.
I've
It's not
heard
my favorite Batman movie ever, but it's worth watching.
I've heard good things about it, and like I don't mind
I think
reboots. I don't mind
I
the universes. When you're old like me, you've been through it all. The first Batman I ever watched was the
89.
'60s
Oh yeah,
campy one that was on
Adam
TV
West.
all the time when I was a kid growing up.
Yeah, it's Adam West.
Yeah,
No, this one is I think is up your alley. I think you'll like it.
I loved the Joker as a film because that was again a different kind
Yes,
of.
yeah. This is
And I
more
loved the
like that.
series Gotham. I thought that was a very underappreciated series. It was so good.
I have not watched. No, I haven't watched a lot of DC TV stuff.
Ah.
But I watched a little bit of Arrow and a little bit of Flash. Flash is always funny because their Star Labs or whatever was like, I'm like, yeah, I've been in that part of BC Place.
Oh, I know. Like when you're watching it, it's like, oh yeah, I know where that is. I
Yeah.
love all that. But bringing it around to football, did you see the MLS Adidas Marvel tie-in?
No,
No, you haven't.
no.
Oh, right. So MLS, Adidas, and Marvel have brought out a Captain America themed unisex warm up tops that
Oh, maybe I've
are
seen this.
part of the trio's superhero inspired collection. So MLS have superhero stuff. So they first launched it last month, June 21st. So it's a three-part collaboration. So I'll just read the press release basically. So the superhero inspired apparel officially launches with an Avengers inspired bespoke warm up jacket, pants, and official match ball that will be used at the All Star game between the
Oh,
MLS All Stars and Arsenal on July 19th at Washington DC. A Captain America themed unisex warm up tops will drop later in June, which they now have, followed by Avengers inspired tops in August as part of the League and Continental Tire's efforts to raise awareness and funds for the Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in September.
yeah. The ball is interesting. I'm looking at the
Mm.
pictures now. The jackets just basically have have the Marvel logo and Adidas and MLS logos. The jackets aren't anything special, really. But
No, like
the
if
ball is kind of interesting.
if the Whitecaps were playing in some Marvel themed jerseys, I would buy that. I think I'd love that. They're not, but if they were, because obviously they can't really wear Captain America, could get Julian Gressel to do it,
Yeah,
make
these are
him
interesting.
captain. Yeah, it's an interesting collaboration. I thought you'd have been all over that.
I don't know how I missed it. Maybe it's because I don't really care about
Yeah, I
MLS.
know you don't care about MLS too much, which is a
Oh, there's the
shame.
ball. Oh, the Captain America shield ball is not bad too.
Yeah, so
It's
that's
nice.
not. I quite like
That's
that.
better. That's better than the one with the images on it.
Yeah, it's better than a lot of the balls that they have as well. So no, I quite like that. I mean, Captain America's not one of my favorite things, but it does have Thor on it as well.
On the ball,
Which
yeah.
the next part we're going to talk about Vancouver FC and their latest signing, which was on Twitter by the club with "Magic is coming," and it was a silhouette of what I thought was possibly a disabled Thor, which
No, it was a jersey in his hand, man. He
yeah,
just
but
took off his jersey and was
but then
celebrating.
when they said magic is coming, and I was like, oh, they're known as the dark side. That can only mean one thing: Voldemort, Bob Bradley, new head coach in
Oh yeah,
Vancouver.
you
Bob
tweeted that
Bradley
out,
was
right?
coming, yeah, but it sadly wasn't. But we'll get into who that was in the next part. In this part, we're going to be talking MLS, Zach's favourite topic. He does at least watch the games for the benefit of the show, because we're going to be talking Whitecaps, Kansas City. We're not really going to be talking Whitecaps 2, Kansas City 2, because they got spanked 7-1. That was not a good game or performance. But we will be
Yeah.
talking
What
MLS.
happened? What happened in that?
Defensively, it was not a strong defence.
Did you watch it on? That's on. It's on
No, I
Apple TV,
didn't
right?
actually. I'd forgotten it was on. It was the early kickoff, and I was watching. I was watching something else. I was watching the Vancouver FC game.
Oh, right. I just saw it on Twitter and I was just like, oh man.
Yeah. They've been
I
in a bit
felt
of a dip.
I felt for you because I know how much you love them.
Yeah, defense. That was not a good defense that was out there for them. But getting back to the MLS team, that was not a good defense that was out there for them. It was not a good performance. I had it as my headline as "From Heroes to Zeros,"
Oh yeah, I saw
which Greg Petrie, who we were talking about,
talking about. What's up, Greg?
he said, "Oh, part of that comes into because of things that Vanny says, which is basically why I went from heroes to zeros, because Vanny's good at going from one end of the spectrum of we're capable of beating anybody to that was a terrible performance. We couldn't beat anyone in this league if we play like that."
Well, that's part of the rock star life, isn't it?
Yeah, and he is a rock star now. Well, are Nickelback considered rock stars?
Anymore? Probably not. But
I, I do.
I,
I don't mind the Nickelback song "How You Remind Me." I think that's a great song. It has kind of special meaning for Caitlin and me because it came out just as Caitlin and me were dating, and when she'd first moved to Scotland, I took her to see Nickelback as a
oh,
Canadian
right.
band,
Our,
and we're
Our
still
Lady
married.
Peace, Our Lady Peace wasn't playing.
No, we did go to see Our Lady Peace, but that was supporting Avril Lavigne.
Oh, the
I don't know if I
whole.
ever told that story in the show. We got free tickets for that because the band interviewed us because they
Oh
loved
yeah,
our
you
love
did.
story. Yeah.
You did. Yeah, you did. The whole Nickelback thing. Yeah, I'm not into the Nickelback, but the I think I think it's great for the club. I think great like
Oh,
advertising promotion
fantastic.
of the club. I think there's some people who are like then use it to jump on him,
Oh, yes.
after the match of the weekend, which I thought was ridiculous. But I mean, on the whole, I mean, it would to me it would be better if he was an ace tactician and a rock star at the same time. And I think
That would help.
he's probably only closer to one of those than the other.
He's closer to Ace Ventura than Ace Tactician, possibly at times, you could say.
But no, it's in all serious, like all joking aside, like I think that I think the marketing department at well, I was going to say at Water Street, but it's not Water Street anymore.
No, they're in the bowels of BC Place.
Yeah, there you go. I think the marketing department was just like, oh, this is amazing.
Oh, I mean, it was fantastic, and the band all got like whatever you think of Nickelback, they are a big band. Like any band that's still playing Rogers Arena, this into their career, they still have fans, and they've been at the Grey Cup and various things. I have two of their albums. Never play them, and they're in my box of albums to get rid of at some point. But I do have two of their albums.
They used to live right down the hill from where I live.
Yeah, they look
Apparently,
like
they're
they
still
would.
apparently they still when they come to town occasionally and shop at this one place, and every so often I see people posting like,
Is it
oh
Black Pudding Imports?
no.
I'll be heading there next week when I head out to something at
Oh,
Willoughby.
that reminds me. There's another thing I need to tell you later about later.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
heading there before the match.
After.
It's gonna be open after.
No,
No,
it's next
it
week I'm
won't.
going.
Oh, okay.
A closed door game.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I've now just spoiled it. It's a closed door game.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to the Whitecaps. From heroes to zeros. It was a horrible game. It was a pretty horrible performance. And Sporting Kansas City, who had picked themselves up, but then we're going into this on a 3-game winless streak. And then the Whitecaps are going into this on the back of a performance for the ages in winning at LAFC. What could go wrong? This game was one of
Yeah.
them. It was a comfortable 3-0 win for KC. They'd have been as well just forfeiting the game and not even
Michael.
bothering and just like getting the 3-0 defeat anyway and saved all that
Wow.
money on charter flights.
That-
I'm
That's
being,
interesting.
I know, I'm being
Did
facetious.
they take a charter?
But yeah, as far as I know, they're chartering still everywhere.
Oh, because of
COVID and stuff.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What I will say is, if you like going into this 3-game road trip, Colorado, LAFC, Sporting Kansas City. I would have been happy with 4 points coming out of it. I was looking for a win against Colorado, a draw with KC, and I didn't expect anything from LAFC. So obviously the Colorado game, weather postponement. That sounds familiar tonight. We'll come to that shortly. Got the win on LAFC. So, I mean, 3 points out of 6. If you said you're going to take 3 points out of 6 against LAFC and Sporting Kansas City, I wouldn't have turned my nose up at that. But I think because of how well they played against LAFC, it kind of feels like a bit of a letdown now going to KC.
It's a massive letdown in terms of result. Although they were missing like significant pieces.
They were missing 6 players, but KC were missing 7. So I will not have that as an excuse.
Yeah, but Johnny Russell was there, so.
True. I will have that as an excuse. We won't delve into terms of the game and the goals, but like the 1-0 goal, Remy Voltaire, lovely finish from him, but you have to question the fact that he was allowed to run through 2 Whitecaps defenders. But I was on the post-game show on AM 730, and this is something that we're talking about. The guys had raised it, and then we talked about it as well. Kinda does superb on this goal.
Mm-hmm.
Powering forward, the little touch inside to set Voltaire up, but he should have been dispossessed at the halfway line. There was a tackle that could have been made, maybe not won the tackle, but at least knocked the ball away, knocked it into touch, and it was a weak tackle that then allowed Kinda to just go on that run and set up the goal, and it was finished superbly. So you're disappointed at that. You're disappointed that no one was tracking Voltaire in his run, that he was allowed to run through 2 defenders, partly because they'd pushed up so much, and that was a disappointing one. The Pulido one for the second was really the killer. And if Pulido, I mean, I think it was, I can't remember who it was now that had a chance to put it away in the 6-yard box and just couldn't connect, and then it runs through.
Slide. It was a nice slide, yeah.
Then it runs through to Pulido, who finishes.
It feels worse because, Pulido's so wide open to just finish it off.
Yeah, your MLS player of the month, just leave him at the back post.
Yeah. Kinda, man, is returning to previous.
Yes, looked hungry again, like from a few years back. He was a guy that really dropped off last year, but he looked so good in this game.
Yeah.
And then the German player with the name that I love, Eric Tommy. We will teach you Tommies. The war will be ours. Always back to the war. You do know that in all the sort of UK films about the war, the Germans refer to the Allies as Tommies.
I don't know that I did.
So yes, it's like, see you, Tommy. So just a German called Tommy just makes me laugh. Obviously no one else. But anyway, that was the killer third. I mean, the third goal in the game was obviously going to be the crucial goal, because if the Whitecaps had got it, they were right back in it. But you're 7-8 minutes into the second half, and then again, it's a nice goal, but you kind of have to question the Whitecaps, and they just seemed a little bit out of sorts. They just didn't feel competitive in this game. They did not feel at the races at all.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know all the guys who were over Kansas City, but when you take Gressel and Ali Ahmed, although I know he's was kind of coming back off his coming back into form off the injury.
But I mean, even Javane Brown, that's been a staple off the back line.
Javane Brown, but especially both in the midfield and kind of going forward. Like, those are 2 of the more dynamic players in the team, who are not just dynamic, but who do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of, like you said, winning back the ball, pressuring the ball. Those are 2, I think, massive holes that were, I think, really noticeably missed. And I guess Jermaine Brown, to a different degree as well, has been in good form. And so, you hope for Vanny and then the coaching staff that they're able kind of like wash this one away and kind of move on. Like this, there's no residuals from this.
Yeah, I think they will, and we'll come to the stretch that's coming up for them in a sec. I mean, once they went to 3-0, KC basically just comfortably saw out the game. They dominated possession. I mean, Vancouver had 11 shots. Only 2 of those were on target, but one of them was blocked. So there's only one save that one of the worst goalkeepers, in my opinion, in the league had to make.
Oh, and that was after you figured they would have taken more shots after Cordova knocked them out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'd forgotten about that. I didn't put that down in my notes. What did you think on that? Because I said this on the post-game show. I think he was a very lucky lad.
Oh, yeah.
And that is not the first time he has had that trailing foot.
You and I messaged. It was... honestly, it felt a little bit like a player who knew how to leave his foot in but make it look like it was natural.
Yeah. And...
Well, not his foot, his leg, I guess, technically.
Yeah. If that had been Cavallini, we would have been all over it and like, oh, he's terrible. Why is he doing this? It's like, that's no different to some of the stuff that Cav has done.
I think
he maybe didn't kick the guy deliberately in the head, but
yeah, I think he was at least fortunate not to be sent off.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. I guess they maybe didn't feel it was a clear and obvious. There was a benefit of the doubt that he tried to avoid the contact. I don't think he did.
No,
I don't. I feel I rag on Cordova all the time, and a big bulk of it is because we've had so many underperforming DPs here and so many strikers that we've brought in that just have not performed. I'm actually working on an article in that regards this week. But his hold-up play is looking good. But that's not what he's there for. You do not have your DP striker to be your hold-up man.
No, but he is still also he
has to do that at times, but we're still not seeing enough out of him. And he had a couple of looks on goal and just nothing was coming off for him. I think what this game really showed him, and we talked about the players being away on international duty, and another player that I've criticised on and off at times, but I think this game showed how much the Whitecaps need Brian White in there.
Yeah, that was
a severe drop-off without him.
Yeah, I agree. I do. As much as Cordova was not great, I think you're right. It feels like he's been doing a lot of great things aside from scoring, including some chances he should have scored.
Yeah,
but
his work rate is good.
His work rate feels better than earlier this season.
Yeah,
so that's encouraging. But yeah, the Whitecaps clearly were just missing the perfect striker in this match.
Yeah, and I mean they had the shots, they maybe weren't carving out the clear-cut chances either, but I think White would have helped that. I mean, when I saw that White was out, I was like, oh, that's a loss. They changed the formation as well. So they'd gone with the weird 3 at the back with Gold as a wing-back against LAFC. It worked so well. Gold gets the player of the week, but then you go and change it to 4 at the back for this week, where I don't know, again, if this was Vanny trying to outthink Peter Vermees by saying he's going to think we're going to do the same again because it worked so well the week before. Let's not do that again this week.
Mm-hmm.
But Gold was a completely different player this week.
Yep.
Would it not have been worth just trying that again to see if that was going to come off? Or was it just the element of the surprise against LAFC that maybe KC would have been able to counter that? Or were the players just not there that could have pulled it off this week?
I think a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I think that you're right. The players, probably the makeup of the players would not have been as dynamic as they were in the previous game. And I think that Vermees and his side would have been more prepared than the GOATs were in LA.
Yeah. It's just crazy to me that you go 3 at the back against such a dangerous attack and it works, and then you change to 4 at the back that did not look good against a team that has been struggling. I mean, there were some positives I liked from it. It was good to see Levante get his MLS deal and then get on the pitch. And I personally was delighted for Gio Aguilar to get his MLS debut because, again, I know a lot of folk haven't watched the twos. He has been so consistently solid for WFC2 last year and this year. He's also a lovely guy off the pitch, loves the game, loves talking about the game, and he's worked so hard for WFC2. He's been the captain of the team. I genuinely did not think he would ever get his MLS debut because he's a bit older and he is an MLS depth player. He's definitely not a guy that you would think of as an MLS starter. And we didn't see enough of him. We just saw 10 minutes. But for him to get that moment, I was personally delighted for him. So it was nice to see him on there. I do have worries about the depth of this team, though, as I think this game showed. With those players that were missing, I think we badly need to improve. We talked on last week's show. Har had said she'd like to see another centre-back, another left-back. I don't think left-back is as important because we do have Ali Ahmed. Ryan Raposo, I feel, after the early flourish in that position, is not the answer in that position. I'd like to see him maybe get more offensive again. I do like what Luis Martins brings there, but we have to get an experienced centre-back. That's got to be something that gets done this window.
Is that what you're hearing? Like, is there...
No, I'm not hearing anything is the problem, but that's what I personally feel should be done. I just think that is the area of strength.
Oh, is there any chance that when that Kennedy comes?
It looks like he's going to Austria, or he might even have signed by now.
Oh, okay. Good for him.
Yeah. He'd probably have made more money over here as a national team player, but Herdman's made it clear he wants the guys to be playing in Europe, the top leagues ideally, and then you can question how... Is the Austrian Bundesliga below MLS in quality? I think it is. I think MLS, as we spoke about before, is very underrated. But the Whitecaps finished the weekend and they finished tonight's games in it's the 7th and final playoff spot, I was going to say. The 9th and final playoff spot, as ridiculous as that is, in the MLS West. They do have games in hand on the teams above them, but they're hanging on just now. But that win for Kansas City did close the gap to 1, but the Whitecaps have played 3 games fewer than Kansas City. And it's getting a bit of a logjam. LAFC tonight, with a big 2-1 loss to the Galaxy, that's suddenly breathed new life into the Galaxy. What is it about the Galaxy in this derby that just seems to bring the best out of them?
Yeah, quite the occasion too, right? This is the Rose Bowl game, right?
Yeah, the 80,000 fans. They had tweeted out yesterday, please arrive by 5:30 if you want to get in for the 7:30 kickoff. Yeah, because there's so many fans. Now, to me, that's just like a nightmare. I hate arriving super early and just hanging about. Yeah, and I know I get on to folk in Vancouver for doing exactly that. I hate just sitting around doing nothing for however long.
Oh, just hang out with your friends, make new friends. That's
or you could go to a Colorado game and you just hang out, covering from the weather delays and another postponed match.
Yeah, no, that's what the World Cup was like. You needed to be there earlier in the stadium if you didn't want to. If you didn't want to deal with the panic and the whatever, and it was much better to be in the ground early.
Yeah, I just touched on the Colorado thing. So Colorado's game against Portland tonight, if anyone missed it, was postponed at halftime because of inclement weather. So now they have to finish 2 games against Cascadian teams because of the bad weather. And it's like, sometimes it's good to have a roof that closes. I was watching Wimbledon today and they had to close the roof because of the bad weather in London, and you could hear the torrential rain just stopping off the roof as it was coming down in the matches. It was like, oh, absolute downpour. But you've got to feel for Colorado. They're not having a great season as it is. And now they've got 2 makeup games that they have to play. They were goalless with Portland at that one, so they've got that one to make up. The way that the West is looking, St. Louis out on top, 35 points from 20 games played. Seattle 32 from 21, and LAFC 32 from 20. RSL 4th now on 30 points from their 21 games, and it's Dallas, San Jose, Houston, Austin. The 3 Texas teams in the playoff spots. Big difference to previous years that we've seen. And then the Whitecaps in that 9th playoff spot for now. The wild card game, the play-in game, whatever you want to call it. The Whitecaps have their next 4 MLS matches at home. And there's a month's gap between match 3 and match 4 because of the League's Cup.
Yeah.
But it's tough games. They've got Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the Galaxy. They've got Austin. They've got San Jose. I don't think that's the exact order. I think it could be Austin before the Galaxy. But for me, you look at those and you've got to say minimum 10 points has to be taken because they can't win on the road very much. I mean, ideally 12 is what you're looking for.
Yeah, of course. The LA one, I think, will be interesting. The Seattle one's always tough. Will always be tough.
Yeah, I mean, are the Galaxy going to start to find some form now after that win tonight?
Yeah, because, you a week or 2 or 3 ago, you would have been like, oh, yeah, that's guaranteed 3 points. Now it's like, yeah. And even San Jose, I think, is not the pushers that they used to be.
No, I mean, they're having a fairly good season.
Yeah. And Austin obviously was better last year.
Yeah,
but
and they've picked up some form now as well. So, I mean, these are tough games coming up, but because of that road form, and then after that San Jose game, they've got a 7-game stretch of away matches. Absolute killer.
Yeah.
And for a team that's really struggling to get points, these home games are absolutely massive. And we talked about this in the post-game show as well. They need the fans to turn up. They need the fans to get behind them and to be that extra man, to be that 12th man, the extra voice to try and get them over the line. This Seattle game, if they don't take anything from that, I'm starting to question whether they will be a playoff team. Last week I had said they could be top 4. They've got to win out at home and find a way to get points on the road, and they could be top 4. If they play like they did on Saturday and don't take the maximum points at home, you then flip that to, are they even going to be a playoff team?
Yeah. Oh, I saw tonight, because they were right on the cusp, right? They're 9th right now.
Yeah.
They're right on that cusp. But I think for the fans, I think there's great hope because they've seen the heights that this team can get to. And so as long as
which is the frustrating thing.
Yeah. So as long as they stay healthy, maybe make an addition or 2 like you talked about. I think they could go on a run. I mean, Vanny's had a couple of years where he's gone on pretty good runs at the end of seasons, right? So it'll be interesting to see if he can pull that magic off, although there are different challenges like you talked about with the massive I mean, they've often had in their seasons, a very unbalanced schedule when it comes to home
but not
and whatever,
7 in a row. That is insanity.
I was going to say, I can't remember a time where there was 7.
I mean, the only clubs that's had that is ones that's building their stadium and they can't get in to play home games.
Yeah. But no, it's not. I mean, if you're a fan, it's not time to lose hope. I think it's time to get excited and, It's a great also time to travel. There's supposed to be, I think, a really warm summer, so get out on the road and go support them on the road. I felt bad. It was Kyle Braun. Kyle Braun was at the game in Colorado.
I know.
Felt bad for the guy. But yeah,
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of Portland fans that's going to be down in Colorado as well. Because they travel well down there, and it's the big July 4th game as well.
But if you're a fan, you haven't made your summer holiday plans or you still have time, go watch them on the road. It's one of the greatest parts of one of the great. It's an incredibly meaningful part of football culture is going to support your team on the road, and especially if you can do it in like the larger the number of people, almost the more meaningful it can be. But
Yeah.
even if there's a few of you, it's a great time.
Oh, I've always enjoyed the away games, and like the only away game really I guess I've had this year is like going to see TSS at Pacific. Although I'm going to watch TSS play not so much at Thunderbird Stadium, doesn't quite feel like an away game really. But yeah, it's like if you can. I always enjoyed in the early days planning my trips, and we'd go down to Seattle, Portland, flew from Santa Barbara to Salt Lake City to take in a terrible performance in that 2011 season. But just seeing some of these other stadiums as well is fantastic. And one of the away games is in Toronto if you don't want to go down to the States as well. Hopefully they will be giving the fans something to shout about. I'm still optimistic for the season. I'll see how I feel about that at the end of this 3-game home stretch that is coming up. That is it though for our Whitecaps chat for this episode. We're going to turn our attention to the other Vancouver side, Vancouver FC, CPL. We'll be back chatting about that after this.
Hi, I'm Johnny Russell and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's our new Artist of the Month for the month of July here at AFTN from Edinburgh, Scotland, an 80s band, Shop Assistants. They only ever released one album, that was in 1986, self-titled album. That is a song from it. It's actually a cover of a Shangri-La's song from 1965. And normally I wouldn't start off our Artist of the Month with a cover that they had done, but I was going to play this on the show anyway. And then I thought, you know what? I love this band. Their first album is amazing. There's some other tracks that were released that went on the album that was on the re-released CD a little bit later that I also have. The song there, Train from Kansas City, played because the Whitecaps certainly needed a train out of Kansas City pretty fast after that loss on Saturday night that we just talked about. It's a great band, Shop Assistants. They split in 1987. Actually, the first concert that I ever went to was a festival where they were the headliners, and I actually found them on YouTube it's just 18 minutes of the gig that they had that day, which was just captured by the band backstage on a video camera. The guitarist of the band, David Keegan, set up the fantastic 53rd and 3rd record label, very iconic record label from Edinburgh and Scotland in the 80s. Had a lot of the guitar bands from Scotland at that time. Found out as well, which I didn't know, that the lead singer of the band, Alex Taylor, she passed away sadly in 2005, and no one knew anything about it until 2020, when they were re-releasing some demos that had never seen the light of day, and they were trying to track down the lead singer to find that she had died 15 years earlier, had just disappeared without trace from the music scene and just from their lives in general. So a sad way to start it. But it's a good band. We'll have another one from them kicking off part 3, and then some other great songs from them over the month of July. The original band that I had for July will now get pushed back into August. But you're not here for the music chat, sadly. You are here for the football chat, and we'll continue our depressing doom and gloom from the weekend results by talking CPL and Vancouver FC in this part. Another home loss, Zach. A narrow one this time. The action, either coming early or late in this game. I didn't make it out to the stadium on Sunday for a couple of reasons. I had something on in the morning, and the early kickoff time meant I was going to miss the start getting up there. And also, and I know you said it was nice and it was very manageable heat. Anything above 18 degrees for me, I struggle. Like, genuinely, I do struggle. And because of the lack of covering, even though the press box has a little tenty cover, when I was there for the Forge game, I was still getting hit a lot in the back of the neck by sun. And as someone that's already had skin cancer after moving to this country, I try and avoid staying out of the sun as much as possible. So games like this, for me, it's sadly going to be a no-no. But it wasn't, for me, a very exciting game watching it at home. Now, it might have felt different for you in the stadium. I don't know.
Yeah, it was actually, like, and going back and watching parts of it, it was a different feeling, I'll say, because it actually came away from this game, like other games, you came away feeling like, hey, our players put forth their best effort, and we just couldn't generate enough offense, and either tied or gave away a goal or 5 or whatever, and and lost. But so the feeling was different this time, not in that our players didn't give their all, because it totally felt like they did, but I totally feel like we should have won that game, like with the chances we created, the quality. I don't think there hasn't been a game this year where we've created that many quality goal scoring opportunities. In fact, there's probably 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 games you could put together that did not have that many quality chances created combined, and we just weren't clinical enough in front of goal. And yeah, I think Callum Irving's been one of, if not the player of the season so far. I think he would want the first goal back. And then the second one is also the second one, I think if there's VAR, I think actually if you actually go watch it, Michael, the second one, the ball's out of bounds before in the build-up.
Yeah, I although if the CPL had VAR, I think there would be a few things from the weekend's action that that would have been different, called back. But yeah, I mean it's tough, and it's what we've talked about. It's like, as much as I like games where it's human error and the old-fashioned way, it does put more pressure on referees then when they watch it back and they're like, that was a mistake. Yeah,
but this was a referee's assistant, and it was not. I don't think he was that, he or she, I can't remember, was that far away from the play. Like it seemed like, because our people, I didn't see it because I was facing the other way, but our people were like, you could see even from where we were, and it was like at least at midfield or a little bit. I think it was in their end, actually. I think it was in the AR's end, and it was like they were like, yeah, it's out. And I watched the replay later, and obviously there's no replay close above it because the league would not want to highlight that. But from the one thing, you're like, oh yeah, this looks out. The one, it looks out, and worse, it looks out, blatantly out, and at least it looks like very, very much over the line. Like if it wasn't out, it was like the Japan at the World Cup.
Yes.
But even that, I don't. Yeah, obviously you need a replay, and one of the problems where things are at right now with the Canadian Premier League is also just the limited number of cameras. Talked about this last week with the penalty conceded at Valor. I would have loved to have seen a shot of that from behind the net from the other angle, because I really think he does knock the ball before he gets the player, which I think then is at least potentially debatable whether or not it should be a penalty. But regardless of all those things, again, I'm sorry, I know I've said before, I don't want to make excuses. I really feel that we actually were the better team on the day, and both their goals.
You say that, but Vancouver FC were outshot 17-13.
Yeah, but
shots on target was 5-4. possession was 61 to York, 39 to Vancouver. And
Yeah,
the
but
most scary thing for me was the number of passes, which outpassed, and the accuracy was poor.
Yeah, but so stats are nice, Michael, but if you actually look at those chances and the quality of them, I think Vancouver's chances were
Yeah,
far more
they were
dangerous.
better chances. I just felt York were maybe creating better in the other 2/3 of the pitch. Or playing better, rather, in the other
Yeah.
2/3 of the pitch.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I think we gifted them the opening goal, as much as it pains me to
Yeah.
say that. And the second one shouldn't have happened, but two was also extremely, extremely fortunate with how that deflection went. Uh, for Di Rosario's goal. But yeah, no, I mean, all that aside, the day itself again for me was great. Uh, our group put on this beach party theme day, which was
Yeah.
in I don't know, this wasn't really maybe publicized as much, but it was all came out of a response to the Voyageurs Cup match where I can't even remember the player, but the York player dove for the penalty, and that's where this all kind of birthed from. It's like, let's have a beach day when York comes, and so yeah, a great tailgate, really great food. Bobby Wheels,
Oh, I heard about
so
that, the
good.
brisket and everything.
Yeah, it was really great, and then people, yeah, dressed up and yeah, had fun and
Yeah, I missed that
um,
one. I'm going to country night.
yeah.
Yeah, not a fan.
Will your cowboy hat keep you cool?
Oh, actually, maybe. I have heard that they're really good for the cool.
Yeah. Well, and you just will look cool.
I don't know that I can pull off a cowboy hat.
Well, you'll have to
My
take off.
mum used to love the cowboy and Indians films, and she would sit and watch them, and she would have little pistols that she would go poo 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 when she was
To
watching them.
pull it off, Michael, you have to take off the other hat you usually wear.
But I like my Oregon Beach hat.
And hey, another thing I want to say about the game and the logistics around this, I think, are being massaged, or at least hopefully being massaged. But one of the interesting things, obviously, it kind of just played out a little bit differently after the Forge game because we won and whatever. You saw where all the kids on the pitch or whatever in the celebration afterwards.
Hmm.
Do you remember that? So that happened, Michael, because I think the CSA, and maybe you've heard some of this actually, the CSA I think was not happy with how, because the post-match media room is where the locker rooms are, and there's that little narrow area, and all the
Yes.
kids and their parents are coming for autographs and to say hi to the players. It was clogging that area up and making it inaccessible to the media. So
It was just me and Felipe.
the stewards of the club decided they needed to create space there, so they've just let these kids and whatever to come on the pitch to meet the players. So for the game where it was the win against Forge, it was just like they were everywhere. So whatever, it didn't really matter. But for this game, they kept the players on the field and they put the kids and the parents on like behind the net. And so yeah, so if you're coming with your kids or you're coming after the game and you want to meet the players, you can just go. It reminded me of USL when the second time I visited Rochester. I think they were just the Rhinos then, and not the Raging Rhinos. And it was in their newer stadium that they had built. And yeah, at the end of the game, they just said, "Everyone, feel free to come down on the pitch to get autographs, meet the players." And so I had a very, very enjoyable but lengthy conversation with Bob Lilly that night, who was coaching Rochester. But it felt like that. It was just like, oh, the game's over, come down and meet the players and hang out and whatever. And so for the kids, you can just see their faces light up and
Yeah,
the meaningfulness of those
I
interactions.
genuinely like that, and this goes back to what I've spoken about so many times on the show. It's the little things like that that make people, especially kids and families, feel that they're part of a club. And if you've got that kind of access to the players, you feel, oh, it's my club, I feel part of this. And it's like WFC2 do that so well at the end of their games, and TSS at that level and stuff obviously do it as well. I would say that there's been a number of times at Whitecaps games, more the visiting players, like when Shaqiri was here, there was lots of people from Kosovo with flags and stuff, and he spent time going over and signing stuff, like genuinely for like about 15-20 minutes. And when you see a player doing that at the top level, it warms my heart, because that's something that those folk will take away and remember. And those little kids, if they're on the pitch and meeting the players that they've just seen, and I know a lot of the young ones are loving TJ because he's the young guy that's making the breakthrough, and they can go and they can speak to him and get him to sign their jersey or whatever. Those are the special memories that you take forward as a kid for years to come. So it's great that the club are doing that. I want to just go back to something you said about excuses, because I don't know if you read Felipe's post-game piece that he did after the Valor game, but it was focusing on AFTN saying after the game about refereeing, and the club's not getting any breaks, and they just have to sneeze or cough and they'll pick up a yellow card and all that kind of stuff, which it felt like deflection, because I didn't feel the team had played very well at all in that Valor game. But I don't think he does himself any favours coming out and saying that.
Yeah, except for the fact that the refereeing has been pretty bad. Now, I will
That
say
wasn't why they lost the Valor game, though, which made it weird timing for me.
No, well, there was a couple. There was what was it at the end? I think there was a penalty shot. I think at the end.
Yeah, but I still think it was a clear penalty, the one that Valor got. But
I think
is that
sorry,
not what he was meaning?
I think there was a penalty shot for Vancouver at the end of that game.
Oh
as well.
no, yes.
So I think AFTN felt that one went against them and one didn't go for them in that game. I could be wrong, but that's my recollection of what happened there. I think your perspective of he doesn't maybe do favors to himself or the club is maybe valid as well. But yeah, in terms of making excuses, I'm talking about for me as an individual, as someone who talks about it on our podcast, and as a part of the supporter community. Like, yeah, to me, there's, I obviously I'd rather we have won every game, obviously, but I don't know. So far I've been thoroughly enjoying the experience as a whole. And the fact that we have won so little has not taken away from that in the way that it normally would, and is not an excuse for me to either not turn up or not invite friends or not continue to try and grow things. In fact, I've had conversations about this before, and even earlier tonight, just about there are advantages to things being where they are and growing them from a smaller place into a bigger thing, as opposed to coming in with the masses. And so we'll see how that plays out long term. But hoping to take advantage of some of those blessings that come from things starting in this way.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that. In a lot of ways, it's kind of reminiscent to the Whitecaps' first MLS season. The only difference being they were an established side, but they were moving to a new stadium. They were moving to a new league. And even though the results weren't going well, there was always a good buzz and a good vibe, at least for the first half of the season. Then as the results kept not coming, it then became a little bit more of a grind that then kind of got invigorated again by going into BC Place. Yeah. So it will be interesting as you move into the second half of the season, if you still feel that way if the results aren't coming, which hopefully they will turn around.
Well, yeah, I think a couple of things about that. I think it's hard to compare them just because size wise, like the Whitecaps were filling Empire, having quite a bit, if it wasn't full, they had good attendance at Empire. And then again at BC Place for those last 4 games of the year, whatever it was despite the fact that things were going well. And what was your name for him? Hot Dog was coaching.
Tommy Sohn.
Yeah. Did you call him Hot Dog, or am I just imagining things?
No, we went on. It's all because Lord Bob had seen him buy a hot dog at Starfire.
Oh, right. Okay.
From the littlest things.
Yeah. Anyways, Lord Bob, I missed that guy.
He still blogs about hikes if you want to read about his hikes.
I know. He's in great shape.
Yeah. He's done fantastic.
No, so I mean, it's hard to compare them, but yeah, in one sense, yeah, I think you're right. It will be interesting to see what happens. The one of the things that I think, a couple of things that I think contributed to the, again, you might disagree, but the overall, I'd say better and more balanced performance from the side this weekend was Elliot Simmons' return to central midfield. I think was huge.
Yeah, I was starting to worry that he
Yeah.
was maybe one of the players that was going to get shipped out.
No. Apparently, I think it was just injury stuff. I
No,
think.
yeah, but it's like I'd been told players were leaving,
Yeah. So
and it's like not everything has been sweetness and light in the camp at training and stuff, which we won't go into just now. But I think there could be some others that still move on as well this window.
well, let's talk about that in a minute. But yeah, on the coming inside, I thought Mickey Cantave, or is it Cantave
Yeah.
or Cantave?
I thought it was Cantavi, but they did say Cantav in the commentary.
So, anyways, Mickey, I thought you just saw he brought experience. He brought the ability to get on the ball and make some things happen. You saw a lack of, let's say, a lack of fear of taking people on. He created some stuff. He was involved. I thought I wish he was able to go the whole match. But that was a really encouraging point. In terms of, let's talk a little bit about the squad adjustments. So Mail Henry, I'm a little bit sad that he's gone. I think,
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about it, not on the show, but just chatting, and it's like I was very high on him,
yep.
and
Well,
you
always
liked what you saw as well.
we'll always have that preseason goal on the short side of the wall against, that was TSS, right?
That was against TSS. Yeah.
Yep, he'll always have that. That was
Glad he's gone. Ship him out of there.
But I agree with Tommy Wheeldon Jr.'s assessment in that he is a player that has potentially a bright future, and so they're going to continue
Tommy's
to
got a
invest in
good
him.
one.
And so I think that was good. And like I said, Mickey, I think, is a positive, experienced player that we are obviously lacking
Definitely.
with CPL experience. Emmanuel Robe
Yes.
has gone, who I'm pretty sure you talk about some people talking about negative experience. I'm pretty sure he is one of the people who was talking to certain people about how he didn't like how things were going. I'm guessing he might not be the only one, but he's definitely probably the loudest voice.
What I would say though is that there's being disgruntled players, and there's being disgruntled players because you feel hard done by, and you've maybe got a point, or you've maybe done something that's brought things upon you. So
Yeah,
it's all about attitudes, really, at training. Is what I'm
Totally.
getting to.
And
I'm not saying specifically Robe,
No.
but there
No,
has
but-
been things fed back to me that there has been some attitude issues at training from players that feel they should be getting way more minutes than they have been getting, and just not happy about it. And then, like, if you're that player, you then go to training and you show, I'm going to
Yes.
show Afshin what I can do.
Yeah,
You don't turn up to training with an attitude.
exactly. And my guess is that he would fit that category. And I think it shows like a lack of maturity, I think, or some might say professionalism, right? To not be able to cope with that. You and I have hung around and know enough amateur, semi-pro, and professional footballers to know that occasionally they can misrate their performances or their
Yes.
abilities or their attitude or their
Suddenly going pro can make them think that they've made it, whereas when you speak to a young guy, like, because we speak to the draft picks every year from the Whitecaps, when they say, oh, I know that I haven't made anything, this is just me starting all over again, that's what you want to hear. That humility, that understanding of, look, you've got a long way to go, and there's a lot of better players, not just in the league, but on your team than you.
Yeah. So my guess is Robe would be one of those. I don't know that factually. I'm not speaking for anyone, but I think he would fit that category, and he might not be the only might not be the only one. On the upside, I think there are some players who will be coming in, who is, I think, could be very, very encouraging. I don't know if you've heard the rumors or seen some of the.
Well, I've heard that there's 3 or 4 that they're interested in bringing in. So to do that, you have to move 3 or 4 really on.
No,
But I have the other thing which I read on Reddit, was somebody who, sorry, I can't remember the name, had been speaking to one of the disgruntled players.
Oh yeah, that's the one who I think pretty sure they were talking about.
Yeah, because I think I saw it on the Fanatics Facebook, or it might have been on Discord that directed me to there anyway. But basically, some of the international players may be moving on, which is hard to narrow down who that is because there is a lot of them.
Yeah, but there were some things in that thread that seemed optimistic and not having to do with any of the things you just said. But no, because there was the one player who didn't who signed but didn't end up coming. There was already an open spot, is my understanding. So with Mail,
I think there was one.
With Mail moving and then Kantav coming in, I think there's still one. So my guess is we'll see at least 2 players come in, and I think one of them will be a striker because Amir Kinani is a U Sports player who's going back to school, is my understanding. And then I think we'll see a midfielder come in as well. I mean, Amir, I guess they could sign him. I guess.
Oh no, well, yeah. I mean,
possible,
they definitely could. Like they've.
I know Ashton likes him. Ashton likes him and his attitude, and I've actually had time to speak. He came to one of our viewings at BBC there in Brookswood Brewing Company in South Langley, and yeah, he's got, I think, a good head on his shoulders. And
I liked him pre-season. I thought he was excellent.
The other thing I wanted to say about this. Oh, sorry, you go ahead. There's one other comment about this game. I need to mention that.
Okay. Well, we'll do that first then.
So I just want to give a shout out to your boy Anthony White. I think he is showing, like I think I said on the last episode, he's showing the form that earned him the opportunity to not just have a U Sports contract, but to have a full long-term contract. I think he's at least on a 2-year deal. I think it's been great to have a left-footed center back. That I think that's always good, especially one who is good at playing the ball. And I know you can say the York defender played a role in this, but I think his ball forward for the goal and Sean Hundell, 6th goal in the league, was just quality. And like, you're like, it was direct, but it wasn't like just route one football, like just hoofed. It was a very intentional pass forward. You know what I mean? And
yeah, he's only going to get better and better.
Well. Yeah, but it was really, really encouraged by that.
Anthony and Nick White, and obviously it's a way different level at League One BC. Actually, maybe not way different, but it's a different level. Mm-hmm. But they excelled. They could both easily have been in the League One BC team of the season. And Anthony is just going to go from strength to strength. Nick as well has got a good career ahead of him. It's great to see him doing so well and developing. I mean, there's another thing from behind the scenes that I won't go into just now. I'm waiting to see how things play out that may shape my opinion of the club and directions that they're going come the end of this transfer window. I'll revisit that. I know I'm leaving that cryptic, so apologies. Zach knows what I'm talking about. But on the whole, this squad, I think, and this is just me saying this, so no one from the club has said this to me, but I think that there are players that if they were to do this again and just rewind 6 to 8 months, they would not have the same players or the same player profiles that they've got. So now it's, do you make that change now, or do you suffer the pain to the end of the season and see if maybe they do come good?
Oh, well, that's another one which I forgot to mention in terms of players going out. I don't know if you noticed this, or caught some of the supposed backstory of this. I haven't double checked this myself, but this is what I was told. So Gail Sandoval was not in the starting 11. He was not in the 18.
And when I heard that some of the international players might be moving on, I did wonder about him.
Well, and then on top of that, apparently Sunday he was hiking up at Lindeman Lake in Chilliwack. So yeah, the sentiment amongst the supporters is like, yeah, he's going to be gone. So,
and I know what he's done, and I know compared to a lot of the players in the league. He is a talent that's above that.
Yeah.
If he can't get fully fit, he is no use to Vancouver at this
Yeah.
point, because they need players that can go the full 90 now.
Yeah. And yeah, go the full 90, and then he hasn't been good enough on the pitch. I mean, he scored obviously in our first ever win, and he's been a joy to watch at times for sure. And contributed and stuff, but
is he Vancouver FC's Mustafa Jarju?
No, not at all.
Oh no, he's scored, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the midfielder that might replace him, I don't know much about, so I don't know if it's the same profile. The attacker for sure that I know of is not the same profile either. So I don't know.
But I was going to say, before the season started, or maybe just after this, actually it was just after the season started, I had mentioned that Theo Bair was up for transfer with St Johnstone.
Yeah, and he's now on a free.
Mutually agreed to part ways.
Yeah,
surely coming back to the CPL.
Yeah, I don't know that he's coming here, but I would be happy to see Theo Bair play the second half of the season and maybe longer. But the
Ottawa lad though, so yeah, he might.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
might go with Atletico. The one upside is, or not one upside, but the person who might fill into Sandoval's spot and did at the weekend is Gabe Bitar, who looked
I thought he looked good in that spot.
Really good.
Yeah,
I thought he was gonna. He was the guy I think alone had 3 amazing chances, or at least 2 really really good chances, and looked on fire. And I was disappointed for him that he, wasn't able to score one of them. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting few weeks or month or whatever for squad development, squad subtraction, squad additions, and I look forward to us having to be able to talk about that more as it progresses and as things unfold. And
we're going to get Felipe on next week, because after the game on Friday against Halifax, that's going to be the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, he had a really good sit-down interview with Gabe. I listened to it. It was like last week before the weekend's game. I think it was Thursday or Friday. It was a good interview. It was a much better interview than the Sean Young interview.
That would have been hard. Coast to Coast FC is Felipe's podcast, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. All CPL related. And I know there's a lot of folk listening to this that aren't interested in the CPL. My stats tell me that when we get to the CPL segments, but we've got some things that we're going to come up. We'll have some interviews coming up, especially with the Whitecaps being away from MLS action and maybe just 2 Leagues Cup games, maybe more. We'll see how that goes. I've been to the one home game so far, which we talked about, but I didn't give my full thoughts on the stadium. So kind of just to wrap this bit up, I just wanted to talk about that. So when I'd come in, I was chatting to one of the VFC head honchos, Steph, and she was saying, what do you think of the stadium? I was like, it'll be nice when it's finished. It does feel an unfinished stadium. And I know it's not what Rob wanted. I know it's not what the club wanted, so we won't go into that again. But being in it, it still feels unfinished. Because I'm from Fife, born in St Andrews home of golf, used to go and watch the golf there a lot. So they put up the temporary bleachers at the golf course. And that's all I can think of for the stands. It just reminds me of temporary golf event tournament bleachers.
Did you go down? Did you come down to the stage standing?
No, I hope to do that this Friday though. I want to kind of check things out from different bits of the stadium. So I'm going to actually go around the grassy bit, the grassy knoll as well. Kind of hope to take in a bit there, and just I want to get a vibe for the whole stadium this week.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, the stadium is totally unfinished, and it's no fault of the stewards of the club.
No, the toilet run, before you say anything, is terrible because it's so narrow, and as you're walking to try and find an empty cubicle, doors are flying open in your faces, which is why I made sure someone was in front of me and got hit before I did. I'm sure the little kid will be fine.
I try to use public bathrooms as little as possible in my life. I
do as well, but I'd been drinking a lot.
So I've I've never been to them at the stadium. Actually, someone asked me that they're always going to have porta potties. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure they're going to have permanent bathrooms here.
Oh, I hope so.
But yeah, so all the parts underneath this stand. I haven't been under the east stand actually. I should go over there sometime. But all the parts underneath the west stand and the south stand, like yeah, you can see where they can do stuff to make
Yeah.
it more meaningful and more feel like more complete and whatever by putting food stuff in there or merch stuff in there or whatever. And I don't know for sure that's how they're gonna do it, but you would
Yeah, well,
assume
they had the Toka thing as well. The
yeah. But there's lots of places to do
kickballs and
that are
yeah,
not underneath there. I think they're doing it just
yeah.
because it's so hot or because they have the space and they can't put certain things. I don't know. I haven't actually talked to Rob about all the desires for that specific part of the stadium. But yeah, but for me, like when I'm in this, even though your comment is valid, I think in this respect, but when I'm in the stadium, like in the section in the stand, the stadium feels like a stadium to me. Like it doesn't feel like St. Andrews,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I could understand how it could feel,
Especially where
incomplete,
the press box is, where
especially
it's
the
just
press
a little
box.
little
Yeah,
tent at the top of
yes,
the stand.
and especially
That's why I
because
want to kind of
there's no
take it in
room.
from like this Friday, take it in from different angles.
Yeah, just be careful though. Yeah, there. I had a friend who got hit in the head in the warm-ups with the balls and got a mild concussion.
Oh, gee.
She's okay, but yeah, we'll get her out to another game. But
I just got a flashback of going to the Cavalry Whitecaps game and Andy Rose kicking a ball over the bar that hit this little girl who was running towards her mum smack in the side of the head.
yeah,
And then to make matters worse for her, she got invited into the Whitecaps locker room after.
but no, it is. I don't know. I've loved going to games there. Like it's been really
I'm pretty sure like if you're in that section behind the goals, or if you're just because it was quite isolated in the press box as well, with
yeah,
just
yeah.
me and Felipe,
You're up there
and
by
it's
yourself.
like
Yeah,
So that's why I'll have a wander around this week and we'll see where it is. So we'll get Felipe on the show, as I mentioned, next time around, because it's going to be the halfway point of the season, that Halifax game. Right now, not looking great in the standings for Vancouver FC, but they are just 6 points back of the playoff spot, and there's still a lot of football to get played. But that is it for our CPL chat. That is it for our domestic football chat as well this show. We're going to turn our attention to the Canadian national team next. So more doom and gloom as they finish second in their Gold Cup group. And we'll be back chatting about all of that after this.
Hi, I'm Ali Ahmed. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Nothing
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's another song from our new Artist of the Month here at AFTN for July from Edinburgh, Scotland, the short-lived band, the shambling band from the C86 era, Shop Assistants. That was a song that probably got them the most publicity and the most coverage. It's called All Day Long. It was on their Shopping Parade EP, released in 1985, also on their debut album, the self-titled Shop Assistants, reached number 2 in the UK indie charts, and Morrissey said that it was his favourite single of the year. So, high praise indeed. He said the lyrics could almost have made it a Smiths song. Not that it was depressing, but it was, about relationships and relationship breakdowns, and I don't know, maybe is the relationship between the Canadian national team and their supporters having a bit of a breakdown, Zach? Because I shouldn't do this, I know. I shouldn't read the Voyagers Facebook page. But, oh boy. There's a lot of unhappy Canadian fans, it feels. Possibly Canadian fans that weren't around many years ago, or Canadian fans that have been maybe swept away a little bit on the wave of qualifying for Qatar. Is that fair? Or
like you and I have talked about before, not on the show. There are pros and cons to when things, when growth happens. One of the difficult things can be when you have a whole bunch of people who are now in the community who haven't experienced some of the lows. They've come in maybe just as a part of the highs or just as being new, and so they don't know the history, or they don't know how difficult things have been or whatever. And so social media can be a great blessing, but also, as we know, can be a cesspool. So I think sometimes places like that are not great. I would say the forum for the Voyagers typically has some of the longer standing kind of people who engage on it. I rarely engage on either. Sometimes I'll read stuff, but
I'm more a lurker. I just read. I don't really post.
But on one hand, of course, it's fair for people to be disappointed in the results lately and how things have kind of played out. Obviously, in the Nations League, which we've talked about extensively, and now in the Gold Cup, which we're going to talk about a little bit. Yeah,
because all that said, what the fuck was that in the group stage from Canada? We were originally going to record over the weekend, and then we weren't able to get it done on Sunday. So I thought, let's just wait till we make sure Canada's got the qualification. Going into the last game against Cuba, I was in no doubt Canada were going to qualify, because it would have taken a massive upset for them not to get through.
Yeah.
But you look at this group with Guatemala, Cuba, and Guadeloupe, that isn't even a country. And, that is a group on paper, even with your B team, that Canada should not be struggling against. And we'll get into maybe some of the ins and outs as to why and everything like that. I couldn't help but laugh in the Guadeloupe game when they equalised in stoppage time, which I know was not a laughing matter for Canadian fans. All I heard in my head was Har from last week's show going, Canada could beat Guadeloupe with you two playing for them. Think it might have gone even worse if we had been playing for them on that one.
I don't know. I don't think I would have scored the own goal.
No, I don't think I would have either. Let's. We're not going to break down all the games, but we'll touch on all three of them. So let's start with that one. I thought Guadeloupe were well worthy of a point in that. And I'm actually disappointed they haven't gone through, because they've played some lovely football in this group stages. The goals that they got against Cuba, or a couple of the goals, the long ranges, were fantastic. And they were just playing with this joy.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of drama and a lot of interesting things happen at the Gold Cup, and they're one of them, including them going out, I think it was maybe 15 minutes left. The goal came in that game against Guatemala that ultimately eliminated them and allowed Canada safe passage into the
Yeah,
knockout
but
stages.
do you know they missed a penalty? With
Yes. Oh
3
yeah.
minutes
Oh
to
yeah.
go?
There was a
Yeah.
penalty after that. Yes. Yes. Sorry,
I
I
don't know
saw
if you'd
that.
only seen the goals,
No,
but
no,
yeah,
no, no. I've seen that.
they
I've
had a
seen that.
chance to go
That's
through
right. I
themselves.
forgot about that. Yeah,
And the
it's
penalty was,
equalized.
I say missed, I mean, it was saved. I'm
Yeah.
always bad for never giving the goalkeepers credit,
Yeah.
but I mean, I've only
But
seen the goals on One Soccer and that penalty save, so I want to go back and watch the actual highlights because, I mean, that's phenomenal. But that first game against Canada, they came out with no fear
yeah.
and they took the game to us in
Well,
stages and,
that's partly what happens when you're not a nation
yeah,
recognized by FIFA, and you have a good group of players who have chosen to play for you, want to play for you, because it's where they're from or their heritage is or whatever, and there's nothing to lose, right? We've seen this from them before in this competition, right? Going back almost 20, 15 years, whatever. Maybe it's only 15 years since they've been a part of it. I can't remember now, but yeah, they've turned heads before. I remember, I think their coach, right? Their coach is Jocelyn Anglema. He used to play for them. Didn't he win the World Cup with France in like '98? And
I
he
think
played in this.
maybe.
I'm pretty sure he did. I'm pretty sure he was in that side. He was, I think, second choice right back. But yeah, I remember Canada, I think, losing to them or drawing to them or having a close match with them when he was playing for them, and it was always so weird because he was playing for a different nationality. But I think, yeah, now he's the coach, and so it's surprising in one sense, but on the other hand, it shouldn't be shocking because they've done it before, you know?
Yeah. I mean, they have played well. And I mean, obviously, it was annoying and you felt really pissed off at dropping those 2 points. But I had no concerns whatsoever. I thought, oh, well, Canada's going to finish the group with 7. Didn't quite work out that way against Guatemala, which the thing that pissed me off the most was Canada Soccer's media release and their match report that went under the headline, Canada get point against boisterous Guatemalan crowd. And it's like, we're not playing against the crowd.
Well,
And
you are in one sense, but I
well,
agree with you. That shouldn't be the
yes, I mean,
headline.
if we want to go all like that into, yes, you're playing against a very hostile crowd,
Because you saw
but you're
the
playing
crowd.
against the players on the pitch.
No, but to be fair, again, to me, it shouldn't be the headline, maybe opening paragraph, fine. But the you saw them play today in Houston in a very
Yes.
different atmosphere.
I Oh yeah, I thought you were going to talk about the Guatemala fans because they were throwing stuff at
Oh yeah,
Guadalupe and they'd scored as well and scored the opening goal and stuff. I mean, what I will say is I thought that was an amazing atmosphere, and full credit to Guatemala and their fans. That you thought you were in Guatemala City. It was just like an absolutely incredible atmosphere. The kind of atmosphere that you would just love to have at Canada games. That amount of people, that hostile. It was great. And Guatemala, I feel, were unlucky just to come away with that with a draw.
well, remind me, what was the crowd at BMO for the first game?
I didn't actually see what the attendance was.
I can't remember what it was either.
It filled up a bit towards the end. Actually, I
But
should have it here because I've got the Wikipedia page up. So let's have a look. 15,301.
Right. In a 30,000 seat stadium or 28,000
Yeah.
seat stadium. So yeah, and was there complaining about ticket prices this time? Because I know there's been that in the past with the Canada games. This is the World
That
Cup,
that
so
I
it's a little
didn't see.
different.
I've tried not to read stuff like that. The Guatemala Canada game though, the crowd was just 4,500 more.
Yeah, but that's a 20,000 seat stadium.
Yeah, so it doesn't feel so
it
cavernous.
feels better. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean that 0-0 draw. We talked about this going into it. How I'd said I'd watched this thing on One Soccer, and they were saying, "Oh, this looks like a squad that could do some damage and maybe win this thing." And I said to you, I was looking at the squad on the screen, going, "There's no one that's going to be scoring." Obviously, they did put goals up today, but that was against Cuba. But that Guatemala game, and we'll come to this in full when we go through the end of it all. I mean, it just shows you the lack of depth that this team has right now. And I think all three of these games kind of shows that we have this golden generation that we've talked about now for the last couple of years. And if you take them out of it, we are no better than we probably were 10 years ago. We're getting the same kind of results that we were getting, say, 10 years ago. Struggling against Guatemala, dropping points against the likes of Guadeloupe.
I would say, yeah, except for there is, I think, a better mentality in the team. There's lots of things that are better. And there's also, I think, more hope because, and you saw this again more against Cuba than the other matches. You saw some of the younger players coming through and actually stepping up. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't agree with that. I mean, obviously I love Canada to just, win it with this group of players. But I think there are pros to take from this tournament, even in the group stage, even from failure, even from what some of the players haven't done, right? Like, or how they haven't performed, I should say. I think like even Borjan's injury is a bit of a blessing in disguise, right? That St. Clair finally got a game, and
although that penalty he gave away today was
that was the first one, right?
Yeah, wasn't great.
No, but it didn't cost them the game at least, right? Like,
I mean, I will admit when Cuba got that and scored, I was cheering. You can take away my Canadian citizenship application now. I just thought this is going to be hilarious if Cuba get a draw here.
Weren't you wrapped in your Canadian flag, baby?
Oh, that was just on Canada Day. That was for my special time with Caitlin. The special time with Caitlin being she gets a nap upstairs and I sit and watch football all day.
In a Canadian flag?
Yeah. Which is also basically every day, really.
Was that a part of your wedding vows?
Yes. I made sure that was in. To love, honour, and let Michael watch as much football as he wants.
Well, I get people's frustration, and like I as much as I haven't read the social media stuff, I'm in a couple other places where there's conversations with some old and some new Canadian fans. So I've definitely seen some of the same type of comments you've seen with the anger or the frustration or the, hey, that has to change, or why didn't we do this or whatever. And some of it is fair and valid.
Yeah, some stuff does have to change, which we'll get on to.
Yeah.
I mean, like ultimately, Canada are through second in the group. Now, the plus point of that, I would say, Zach, which I think some folk will probably have missed in that, is that the Whitecaps will now get Ali Ahmed back for 2 MLS games and the League Cup game against Leon, because Canada's getting spanked by the US on Sunday, so we'll get Ali back.
He's been one of the brightest spots.
He has.
Wow.
Him and Shuffleboard, I
Shuffleboard?
think, have, yeah.
I know, because I know you've seen him play tons, and I haven't seen him play live hardly at all. But he especially, I mean, everyone played better against Cuba, and Cuba has obviously been the whipping boys of the group. But he looked like he belongs.
Yeah, good defensive play today against Cuba, getting forward.
And he was on that left. He was like a left back, wasn't he? Technically,
yeah. I liked him though in the first game where he was a number 8. I think he really excelled in that as well. He actually got player of the game against Guadeloupe.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that as much as I do it as in left back, especially when you have no Sam and no Alfonso.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I did see some folks saying, "Oh, he's such a bright spot. Oh, he'll definitely be one of the ones that's in the Canadian squad going forward." And folk were like, "He's not ready to be a starter." And it's like, no one's saying a starter in the squad coming off the bench.
Like, for example, I think he's now you could say because he's in the squad, he's already surpassed him. But for me, he's surpassed someone like who's had an up and down couple of years, like a Raheem Edwards. Sorry,
has he made the switch?
No, Raheem Edwards, right?
Yeah.
Like he was a guy who I always thought, okay, could have a chance based on his league form, especially I think it was last year, even though his team was not doing well. But it seems like someone like Ali Ahmed with his pace and his his drive forward, and like you said, his ability to play multiple positions and contribute offensively and defensively, I think is, definitely earned himself, a chance to be in a full Canadian squad for, let's say, like a World Cup qualifier, which obviously we won't have for many years, but like in the next full competitive squad, you know what I mean? Or for him, even just thinking, like, you got to think he no matter what happens the rest of the way, he's leaving this thinking, I better not make any plans for the summer of 2026.
Yep.
I mean, not that he would anyways, because if he's in MLS, he is
well, we've got Copa America coming. He should make plans for.
That's the next one,
yeah,
right?
Should make plans for the summer of 24, I would think. I mean, there are some positives to take, which are that some of these young guys have got experience in a big tournament, and obviously Canada, it's a B team. It's like there's no getting away from that. The star guys, the top scorers, they're all missing. So this was a chance for some players to seize their moment, show that they belong there. I think some have possibly shown that either their time has come in Canadian colours, Borjan, possibly Vittoria.
Yeah, the problem with Vittoria is, unlike some other positions, is there's who's going to take his spot. Is Bombito? Is Kennedy ready? Is,
I didn't think Bombito has had a great appearances so far, but to be fair, I wasn't fully just watching him. I was kind of watching the rest of the game.
And they played him in midfield a bunch too, right?
Yeah.
So it's not even like they played him at center back the whole time.
But I mean, there's no getting away that it hasn't been fantastic. I'm playing the US in the quarterfinals. Now, this is when I switched One Soccer off tonight. Now, I'll preface this by saying I really like Andy Petrillo. I think she's excellent and she's got good analysis. But when it throws back to the studio after that and after finishing second, and she's like, John Herdman, the first coach to take them to 3 World Cup quarterfinals, it's like, if you're trying to clutch positives from that, I'm switching off now. Because yes, it's an achievement, but you've come through a group that involved Cuba, Guatemala, and Guadeloupe. So it's not that great an achievement. This would be when I went on the call again and would say, is your message that you haven't achieved anything yet, John? And then I'll get blocked again for another year and a half.
When I heard that, because I heard the same thing as you did, I was just like, yeah, okay, I guess back in the day we might have said she was trying to put spin on it, right? But it wasn't that horrible. I didn't think it was that bad. I understand.
I'd come home from work, I was grumpy. It was probably that just played into it. I'd put a lot of money in Cuba to win. Just that kind of stuff. I got carried away when they pulled that goal back. I was like, hey, we'll be able to afford this house, Caitlin. Watch, I'll put all our money on Cuba in the second half. But before we move on to some of the other stuff about this, do you see them having any chance against this US team that is also a B team, but is... I know they struggled against Jamaica, but they certainly look like they are playing as a team and a better team than Canada.
Well, I haven't really watched much of the U.S. in the tournament, but I guess my hope would be that just playing the U.S. would help them raise their game, them as individuals and as a collective. I'm not like, unlike you with Cuba, I'm not putting any money on it. I would never bet on Canada. And
just like you don't bet on East Fife, it's like.
And no one. I don't think there's any expectations, but I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
I don't know. I'm a little bit apprehensive about what might happen.
No, I like that they're playing them so quickly after that final, even though the teams are drastically different. I think for John and the staff, it allows for them to, let's say, shape things in a way that it might be helpful for the few players who are overlapping for those two games. But I mean,
if you look at the US in qualifying, they had 2 6-0 victories against St. Kitts and Nevis and Trinidad and Tobago. So 4 teams they had to play, and they still managed to put up 12 goals.
There you go. And classic.
3 against each one.
Yeah.
And Julian Gressel came on as a sub in that Trinidad game and got a nice assist and looked really, really sharp as well. So I was pleased for him. Haven't actually watched Jamaica, so I don't know how Javaine's done for them, but obviously they have got through as well.
Did you watch them of your own accord?
I did, because I was going to do that joke, because if Canada had won the group, they would have been playing Jamaica off their own accord, but that never got to happen. Guatemala are the group winners after that. I mean, Canada hasn't been the only team that's had a couple or there's been some shock results, because Qatar beat Mexico and qualified. Your boys from your time in December. They hold a special place in your heart.
No, not really. Yeah, they have done better than some people expected for sure. But
I just fast forwarded through
this,
the Mexico game, but it's like, whew.
Who on this continent though wants them to advance?
Good question. People from Qatar. There was a few folk in the crowd. I don't know if they were paid to go there or if it was like proper people. But
well, remember it's not like they're short any money. You know, the 300,000 Qataris who live in Qatar or whatever. They've done quite well with the resources of their region, of the country.
I'm pretty sure CONCACAF are pleased that they went through, because it did seem stupid that they were in it, but now they can justify it by going, look, this is why we had it. They're a good team. Or on the other hand, you can turn around and go, look how shit CONCACAF is. Qatar have qualified.
Yeah, it's kind of that's an unfortunate way to look at it, but it's true.
Yeah, but that is something else I was going to talk about, which, I mean, we've talked about this many years over the show. You can talk about the Canadian depth not being there, but CONCACAF as a continent, as a governing body, the area, the depth is just not there to help bring the teams to the level that they need to get to. And Canada playing games like this, it's not going to help them get up the rankings to get the experience against the top teams.
Well, the Guadeloupe game doesn't even count for FIFA rankings, which is unhelpful.
Possibly good, since they dropped 2 points.
Right, yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it.
I mean, I still would be all in favour of CONCACAF and CONMEBOL merging.
No.
I would maybe worry what that would mean for Canada in the long term, but you'd be having way better games and way better opposition.
Yes, you would.
If we talk about Canada's depth now, so obviously pretty much the B team, it's an older team. There's a lot of guys in the 30s. I was pleased that David Witherspoon got a run out in the second game, but then we saw a couple of young guys coming on. It was good to see Dominic Zator, Victor Laturi getting on today. It's an interesting mix, because when it's a young squad, you do obviously need to have the older heads in there. Moving forward, we don't know what the next couple of windows are going to look like in terms of, are we getting these friendly games or not. But what have you made of the depth in this tournament? Is there any players that you've seen that you're thinking, I don't know that they are really at this level that we need right now?
I think it's been good for all those who've been able to take part. Like I don't think, well, especially Gold Cup level, I don't think anyone's been horrible. I think I know I spoke very harshly and critically of Jonathan Rosario's inclusion in the starting lineup for the final of the Nations League. And I think for the most part, and obviously especially against Cuba, he has kind of stepped up and shown, what he can bring and what he can do and how he can lead, especially in a group with so many young players.
Yeah, he's shown a lot better than Cavallini.
Yeah, well,
I think his stock's just going down and down and down.
Why? Well, I mean, he set Osorio for the goal today, and we know they're longtime good friends. I mean, I've said on the show before, I just don't really rate Cavallini because I don't think his football IQ is at the he's not on the level as the starters in the full national team by any stretch of the imagination.
And he picked up a booking as well. Which was nice.
That's unsurprising. You should have had money on that, maybe.
Yeah, that's what you should be betting on.
Yeah, but no, I think I think Ali is the guy who stands out by far in terms of the ones that are newer to the program or newer to getting caps or getting time or whatever, and they're really happy for him. I always confuse them, get their names. Who scored the other goal? Was it Nelson?
Nelson got it today. Yeah, he got the third one, I think. Yeah,
so feel good for him. To get that kind of contribution to score at this stage, I think for him will be, confidence boosting. And Bombito, again, I don't think he's necessarily been amazing, but I think there's potential there. Same with Zach McGraw.
Yeah, actually,
I don't know him well either.
No, I don't either. But he didn't look too out of place.
No, Zator's got a little bit of time.
Yep, Laturi.
Obviously, I like him. Laturi, yeah. The CPL guys feel great for them. It shows, despite some of the.
Yes, let's get on to that.
Like some of the critics that have said, the Canadian Premier League adds nothing to the football development of our country, which is one of the most. If you want to criticize the league, that's one of the least ways you could criticize the league. In my opinion.
Criticize the CSB deal. Criticize aspects of the league, but the one thing you cannot say is that it is not a breeding ground to develop young Canadian talent.
Yeah.
Because it's the main place that these players are going to get to develop the young guys.
In the same way that like the MLS as a league said, we need to have a second league. We need to have a place for more players on our squads to actually play matches. We need to expand that. Yeah, we as a country had no, other than those teams playing in the American League, we had no place. Right, we had no places down to like whatever the League Ones,
Yeah, I mean, you could also argue that it took 10 to 15 years for MLS to fully see the effect of those players becoming stalwarts and staples of the national team. A lot of them did it once they went overseas and came back, but they cut their teeth and they developed in MLS.
Oh, yeah.
And it did maybe take 10 to 15 years to get the full output of that. And folk have got to remember that the CPL is 5 years old. Yeah. And before that, there was nothing.
Yeah. The majority of the players playing this league would not have footballing careers, and a few of them would be playing overseas and you would never have heard of them or known them.
They'd be in like 5th tier in Germany or 3rd tier in Finland, and
or hopefully for some of them higher, but
or at least 5,
or like even some of the guys who retired early in the league because their wages are so low. I'm trying to remember the guys from York.
It feels like there's been so many.
There's been 2 or 3 of them. Anyways, like they would have done that. They would have said, okay, I can be an accountant, a lawyer or whatever, and have a better, quality of life in the short and long term. So I'm going to go do that. You can't criticize the league on those merits, because one of our problems is like one of the things that we won't, like you said, we won't see until things get further on the road, is just developing a larger pool and larger competition for players, right? And then obviously finding those who are of the highest standard, to actually make a full breakthrough.
Just to end our Canada chat, this was a question that was posed to us by our good friend Ozzy, Chillino Thoughts. And this is something that I have seen debated a lot on the various social media and Discord channels and things in the last couple of weeks. So Ozzy says, should Herdman be replaced because he appears to be getting out-coached? And who should replace him if we had the money to pay them? So there's a couple of aspects of that. One being, if they get rid of Herdman, they'll have to pay money to him, and they have not got the money that they can pay to him if they haven't got money for other stuff right now. So if we take that out of the equation as to whether they can afford to get rid of John Herdman, should he be replaced? Has he been outcoached? It has felt in some of the recent games that yes, he has been.
Yeah, I've seen some of this discussion from uh fans to pseudo media people espousing these same thoughts. I think I don't think he should be at this point. I think, to be honest, Mike, I feel like he deserves, obviously not with total immunity, but it feels like barring some catastrophic things, and I don't think this is at a catastrophic level, in my opinion. He deserves the chance to be the coach for the home World Cup, especially with the qualification for 2022. Um, and so, yeah, I don't think, even if you want to say he's been outcoached in some or all of these games, I don't think I don't think that strips him of the right to continue in the job in this moment, anyways. I think the perspective about the finances is an extremely valid one, and is very important to where things are with our federation. I don't know, maybe you do, Mike. I don't know the terms of his deal or the length and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think
I'm sure it was extended to just the end of the 26 World Cup.
Yeah, so I don't see our federation being in a place to say, oh yeah, we're not happy, we're going to move on, right? Like, because yeah, they cannot afford it, right? One of the questions we need to get answered in this, Mike, and maybe and I've missed it, is did things get settled with Iran?
Do you know what? I don't know
Because
because
that's another huge financial issue
yeah,
that
it's
we
one
don't know
of, one
about.
of the things that you want to ask, but you never get the opportunity to ask it. And the
Yeah,
folk that did have the opportunity haven't asked it.
no,
But
yeah.
that is a very
Because I
important
remember at the
thing.
time it was like that's a seven eight it was an eight figure potential lawsuit, right? Like,
But you also have to imagine as well, like the postponed game against Panama. Panama is going to have been due money from that as well, and then there was
yeah,
no gate receipts to cover what Panama were going to be
yep,
getting for coming here. So I
yeah,
mean,
because
there's
they
those
they
aspects
gave
to
all
it
that money
too.
back, right? Because they gave
Yeah.
that money back, the tickets, yeah. So yeah, those are other issues. But so yeah, I don't think they're in a place financially. But if we were to entertain the, hey, who would you like coaching the Canadian men's national team at this moment? I haven't really thought about it much, but so actually, let me listen to what you say, and then I'll I'll think about what you talk. I have a couple of names in my mind, but I want to hear what you say.
See, for me, I think it does come down to money. What I would say though is these big CONCACAF Nations League games, the two-legged quarterfinals that's coming up in November. If Canada don't get through that, and
Mm.
Canada don't get to go to
Copa.
Copa America, he has to go. It's like you at that stage you need that change. My worry with Herdman is that he's possibly taken the group as far as he maybe can. Do they maybe need a fresh voice, a new thoughts in their ear, new tactics? Because some of Canada's tactics, some of the formations, and we've talked about this before. It's like shoehorning in the players you want because you want to get the attacking guys on the pitch. So you'll somehow make a formation that works for that. And yeah, that's great when you're going to St. Kitts and Nevis or Barbados or something like that. You can do that and run the score up. But when you're playing the top nations,
Yeah.
many of whom have been stung and wanting to try and get back, it's like I do feel we are let down a little bit by our tactics with this national team at times. I also think you would have managers queuing up to take over because you've got a team that is guaranteed to be in a World Cup, that's guaranteed to be a home team at a World Cup. You've got Copa America on the horizon. You've got other big tournaments as well. There's managers all around the world that would want to do this. A lot of people, when they talk about this and bringing in an international manager, they point at somebody like Gus Hiddink and what he's achieved by going from clubs to various countries around the world. I don't know that anyone immediately jumps out at me as somebody that would take over. I don't think that necessarily it matters if they know the Canadian game that much, because so many of our top players are playing in Europe. I would want it to be somebody that has been there and done that. And by that, I mean won championships in one of the top 4 leagues, ideally, around the world. Somebody that's had success in club competitions like the Champions League or Europa League.
Yeah.
Just like somebody that's been able to get success.
Yeah, if money wasn't an issue, I would. When you first posed the question to me, the one name that jumped to mind, because he does have a Canadian connection, and his name gets brought up lots especially in this part of the country, is Carlo Ancelotti.
Yeah, does he begin with a C? I was going to say, yeah.
It's Carlo
Ancelotti. He's getting on a bit now.
Yeah, but that's not as bad for national sides.
I mean, like if I was picking who would I love, someone like Pep Guardiola.
Oh, what? That's crazy. Though.
I know, but it's like that's what I'm just saying. If money was no object, and you want somebody that's got it, it's like, oh yeah, I'll cut my teeth internationally with this team that's going to be at a World Cup. That kind of name would obviously be fantastic, but a little bit far fetched. I mean, you're possibly talking about somebody that's maybe one in Spain, one in Italy. But I don't know. I mean, maybe even German coach, but you'd have a better knowledge of who that could possibly be.
Yeah, but I see all the German coaches are like these, for the most part, are these young up and coming kind of dudes. And the Bundesliga also has a bunch of pretty good Swiss coaches. Mm-hmm. But yeah, see, I can't see any of them being like a fit.
I mean, ideally, you would want somebody that has managed at international level, but it's not a deal breaker for me. I think if it's somebody that is successful, but managing at club level and managing at country level are so different, because you go from day to day, hands on with all your players every day.
And that's where someone like
a couple of times a year.
That's where someone like, I think, Carlo Ancelotti, he could do that. You know what I mean? Like he could make that adjustment without having been in the national team frame, as far as I can remember.
I mean, there's no Canadians that jump out at me.
Well, this is another problem, though, right? Or one of the problems. This is another one of the issues that some people in our country have. Is like, why don't we have a Canadian doing it? And yeah, part of the reason for that. I mean, an easy, simple name would be someone like Mark DeSantos, right? Like he would love to be national team manager there.
And he almost was at one point.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but I think that might be harder for people to swallow than maybe for the players, or maybe it would be for them too. Yeah.
I can just imagine Whitecaps fans yelling.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever they're listening on this on, going, what?
Well, I guess the one thing maybe potentially gets Mark that I know you've talked about in the past is, and I didn't get to experience this with him in his time in Vancouver because I wasn't really at training in those days, but I think you maybe have described him to me maybe as being a bit on the older school style of management, whereas that might not work as well with this current generation, although he's done very well, we know, as an assistant coach working with younger generation. So, yeah.
Because, I mean, the thing is, usually if...
Or sorry, what about Mauro Biello, right? He's on John's staff.
Well, I was away to say, usually you would look at who's taking charge of like the under-23s or the under-20s, and you'd look, is there someone from there that we could promote in? And I don't know that anyone there is better than what John Hedman's going to bring to this squad, because John knows these players and he knows this squad. So unless you're going to really dig deep and pay to bring in a big name in the managerial game, I don't know what you do in that situation, and we know the money's not there.
Yeah. Can we talk about one thing about the money that moves off the coaching?
Yeah, because I was going to I just remembered something that we should probably touch on. But what were you going to say?
Well, I forgot to send this link to you and to talk to you, but Jason DeVos came out this week,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
okay. So Jason DeVos, I have a lot of time for him, despite from time to time disagreeing with some of his takes as a commentator. Yeah, I've quite a bit of time for him, and I really appreciate um his uh honesty, and also his, like, he this week he did something that we see very rarely in football, right? So he did the whole interview with Westhead, whatever his name is, from that organization that won't put Canadian football on the network. And he mentioned, hey, like, in my role, I have asked the question about what would bankruptcy look like for us, just because I wanted to know every possibility, right? Anyways, I heard him this week given another interview on Footy Prime, the podcast. You can edit that out if that's not appropriate. But
Oh no, it's a great podcast. I highly recommend folk listen to it.
And a couple things I want to say about this, Michael. And again, I'm sorry I didn't message this to you, like I have with some of the other things on this topic. But he basically said, "Look, I've played 500 games of football in my life. Over that, he's like, not one of them did I play perfect. Every single one, I made a mistake. I missed something. I didn't do something I was supposed to do." He's like, I just want to say, like, yeah, in that interview that I gave, he's like, I didn't fully say what was going on, or didn't, like, yeah, he's like, we're not pursuing bankruptcy. He's like, I just looked at it. He's like, I should have made that more clear. And I think subsequently other people have come out and said, like, the CSA would never file for bankruptcy because they don't owe anyone any money.
Yeah,
The players
which was an aspect that we didn't touch on.
Yeah,
we talked about this last week, but yeah, they're not in debt.
They're not in debt. The players might disagree about that, but
yeah,
exactly, they're not.
Iran might as well, but
yeah, exactly. So, but no. So, and the crazy thing, if you listen to that interview, Michael, is honestly, it just reminded me of, like, how significant and important, like, relationships are with this whole setup. I mean, in life in general, but with our national teams, because honestly, and you can correct me or other people can rebuke me on this, but there's not a lot, in my opinion, of what he said that is actually that different than what the last regime said in terms of content, saying, hey, we need to further the game. We need to take care of our players. We need to take care of grassroots. We need to take care of all these things that we're responsible for as a federation. And we only have finite amount of money. And so we need to do something that honors our players, but also enables us to run those programs to a level so that, one, national team level players will want to keep playing for us, but also that our youth system has those same levels, so that young internationals will come to a camp, and we hopefully have many, and they come to a camp and they say, yeah, this is top notch. I want to be here. Like, they got their stuff together. And so, again, if you can listen to it, Mike, but he, for me, didn't really say things that are that differently, but he spoke from a place of relationship with the men's team and the men's players and coaches, and he spoke about the women's team from having been their coach, with relationship there and relationship with their coaches. And it was just like, I don't know, one, it gave me a lot of hope, and two, it just reminded me of how significant that is. We've talked about this in other situations in football, about how important it is to have the trust and to have, like, honesty, so that you can continue to pursue excellence and help the game move forward. Because if you don't have that, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But seriously, I encourage you to listen to it and see if maybe I'm wrong. But I felt like there's nothing he's saying here that's rocket science. It's not like he said, hey, I got a new thing, or hey, I found some money, or I found a way for us to save money, or whatever. No, he said pretty much the same things. We have a massive job. We have a limited amount of funds, and we need to figure out the best way to do this. And he's like, it's my goal to do that as openly and as honestly as possible, and to help this all move forward. And I don't think there's anything more you can ask. And I guess maybe he doesn't have the stain of maybe being a part of being a part of the CSB deal in a direct sort of way. And so maybe that's the one thing but I also think relationally, I think he has a connection to these players on both the men's and women's team that will help get something done
Yeah.
so that this can move forward.
Because, I mean, when they were talking about who the new president should be, he was somebody that I put forward as who I would like to see for those very reasons. He's got those relationships. He's been on both sides of it, and he knows how things work.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm kind of piecing together what we want to do during the League's Cup break, and I've got Jason DeVos as someone I'd like to get on the show. So, obviously, get you on when we chat to him about stuff as well. We'd love to do that, because we know Jason. He badly damaged my ribs in the first media match at BC Place. He still owes me for that, I think, so coming on the show would be what he needs to do. Apparently I was too fast, so that was him slowing me down. Now, this is me that is shit at football. I don't think he needed to do that.
And you're not very fast, I don't think, either.
No, I was getting past him. He wasn't very fast either. I am good at, from a standing position, at putting on a great burst of speed for like 3 seconds, but then it all goes. But yeah, so he owes us. So we hope to have John and Jay Herdman on as well during that time, so we can cover all avenues of that. But I think that is it pretty much for our Canada Soccer Chat, and that is it pretty much for the football chat as well. We'll finish though, as we always do on the show, with this episode's Wavelength. And I've done this one for you, Zach. It's a German band. Skinheads.
Oh my.
Anti-fascist skinheads.
Okay.
They're called Stage Bottles. It's a German band formed in 1993 in Frankfurt. Still going strong, celebrating their 30th anniversary this year. This is a song from their 2004 album called New Flag. And it's a song all about something deep in our hearts, getting rid of the money men, getting rid of the parasites that just fill football around the world just now. And this is their song, Kick Out the Parasites.
It seems the only question is, what does a player cost today? What does it cost tomorrow? No independent associations. Which clubs are giving out their rules? Important for the management is who is getting more than others, who is getting less. So if you support a small club, the chance of big success is really small. Supporters are just ticket numbers, businessmen or the club's heart. What about me? Am I just a currency? What about us? Let's make a fuss, cause personal relationships disappear for championships. It's a sellout. That's what it's all about. Supporters are easily caught criminals. Non-conform behavior, punishment. Conformity means to consume the way you've got to act is shut up and pay our prices. Over 100 years ago, city quarters founded football clubs. Expression of the community, a way to fight identity, structures of solidarity. What about me? Am I just a currency? What about us? Let's make a fuss, cause personal relationships disappear for championships. It's a sellout. That's what it's all about.
Stage Bottles there from Frankfurt, Germany. Kick Out the Parasites. Got a few songs I'm going to kind of bring this month on that theme. Getting rid of the money people that's spoiling the game. Getting the fans, reclaiming the game. Against modern football, all that kind of stuff. So we've got a few of those ones coming up. But that is it for this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. Just before we go, Zach, any final thoughts? Anything funny caught your eye this week? Anything you want to plug?
No, well, this is coming out this week. Vancouver FC is playing the Wanderers from Halifax. Friday night, 7:00.
Yes, I'm hoping to catch up with Patrice Geyser, who I've been wanting to speak to for the whole season.
That's the manager, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so if that means Michael's going to be there, you can see if he can extend his perfect record.
Well, it was nice that they played Into the Valley. Somebody captured it and sent it to me. Again, with hardly anyone in the stadium. I think it's hard to tell at some of the games.
I haven't looked at the numbers, but yeah, it was not a great crowd. But those who were there thoroughly enjoyed themselves, which is more important.
Oh, especially the York fans, yeah.
I got a story for you later when we're done.
Okay. I just want to finish by saying, I don't know if you saw this tweet that I put out, Zach, this week. I was catching up with the weekend's League One BC action. Gideon was over in Victoria for the Highlanders Harbourside game.
The game of the week?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So I was watching it. Gideon doing a great job on the featured commentary. But I had to tweet out something that happened, I think it was in the 63rd minute. Because what they've gone for sideline reporters. It's basically BCIT students trying to learn the craft and stuff. And I'll be honest, it's been pretty hit or miss. Mostly misses with some of them. And there was an injury to one of the Victoria guys, and Gideon threw to the sideline reporter. And it was as if he thought he was on old-time radio. He was describing what had happened. And it's like, the number 2 is on the ground just now. He seems to have taken a bit of a rough tumble. The man in the red shirt wearing red is attending to him. He's helping him up now. Now he's helping him off the pitch. And it's going to be a penalty kick, I believe. Yes, it's going to be a penalty. It was a free kick outside the box, for one thing. Yeah. But he just talked through all this. But my favourite thing was when Gideon threw to him saying, so what can you see down there? And he's like, well, what I can see, well, it's quite far away. It's comedy gold. If you haven't seen it, check my Twitter. I'm sorry to rag on the guy, but oh, man. Standards. It's a standards-based league. There's a lot of standards not being met. I'll have an article about that at the end of the season. But give us a follow on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Always, of course, on YouTube, youtube.com/AFTN Canada. If you've liked the podcasts, give us a nice review. Say nice things about us. If you haven't enjoyed it, we've been Footy Prime, and just leave a review there. But we will be back with another episode soon. Until then, thanks for listening. Take care. Mon the Caps, and Allez le Rouge.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
More than a name, that's what we
AFTN.